Hi all, today PhoneArena is making a video comparison of the Samsung Galaxy S and the HTC Desire HD. Currently these are the only two handsets with huge screens and the next generation chipsets made with the 45nm technology, making them a lot faster in graphics and overall performance on the same battery charge. There really aren't any alternatives to these two in that respect. If you want a big screen, you'll probably be choosing between the HTC Desire HD and the Samsung Galaxy S. HTC and Samsung took different approaches towards the design to make for entirely opposite feelings of the two handsets when held. The HTC Desire HD is wider, but not by much. It's the same length almost as the Samsung Galaxy S, but it's noticeably thicker than the Galaxy S, which is explicable considering the aluminum casing and a slightly larger screen. But this aluminum, the metal that makes it look so good, also makes it a third heavier at 164 grams than the 118 grams of the Samsung Galaxy S, which feels almost eerily thin and light for a handset with a 4-inch screen. That's basically the huge solid slab with unibody aluminum casing, that is the HTC Desire HD, versus the featherly feeling of the Samsung Galaxy S. We have to admit that we're giving the handling round to the Galaxy S because we're able to operate it with one hand easily, and it's so thin and light. Although the Desire HD is simply beautiful in its aluminum unibody casing with soft touch plastic elements. The Desire HD also has an 8-megapixel camera with dual LED flash, which beats in terms of resolution the 5-megapixel camera on the Samsung Galaxy S, which doesn't have a flash, but it has a front-facing camera. Now to the most important selling points on these handsets, the displays. It's the 4-inch Super AMOLED on the Samsung Galaxy S and the 4.3-inch on the HTC Desire HD, which have the same 480 by 800 pixels of resolution. Same resolution on both screens, just different pixel density due to the difference in size. The Super LCD is practically brighter than the Super AMOLED, which helps in direct sunlight, but the screen on the Galaxy S has a special coating that decreases the light reflectance to the extremely low 4%. We actually notice that this even things out in bright sunlight, and when we add the saturated colors, the low reflectance and the wide viewing angles of the Super AMOLED screen, we'd even go so far as to give it a slight advantage in direct sunlight visibility, which is not very typical for comparison between an AMOLED screen and an LCD screen. We just bumped up the brightness of both displays to the maximum, so we can make a comparison. As you can see, still we take the Super AMOLED screen of one and the same resolution any day before an LCD one. Battery life would be comparable, provided that you don't do a lot of browsing or reading, but these vivid colors and the incredibly high contrast, the wide viewing angles, more than make up for the higher brightness of the LCD display. This higher brightness also means when on the maximum level, the black on the LCD screen looks a bit grayish, as you can see, because it still has the backlighting on, and the colors appear washed out, while the pixels on the Samsung Galaxy S stay completely off to represent black, which achieves this vivid, bright, contrasty image. Of course, what else this screen of the HTC Desire HD has going for it is that it's just simply bigger. The HTC Desire HD also has an advantage on the connectivity front. It's able to download with 14.4 megabits per second speeds. That's HSPA plus speeds, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S has the regular 7.2 megabits per second 3G speeds. And in Europe alone, about 30 carriers already are utilizing the HSPA plus technology, which will come in handy when you need fast downloading speeds. On the other hand, the Galaxy S has Bluetooth 3.0, which is the newest standard, fastest, but not many devices are utilizing it so far, so it's just future-proof technology. It's much more important to have the HSPA Plus connectivity that's present on the HTC Desire HD. Now let's take off and examine the interfaces on both handsets. We upgraded the Samsung Galaxy S to Android 2.2 Froyo. and we'll have to see how the TouchWiz 3.0 interface behaves on Froyo. And also the HTC Desire HD has another first in it. That's the newest version of the HTC Sense user interface, which brings in some cloud-based services for remote management of your phone online, also offline navigational capabilities. And both handsets, as we said, are the only two smartphones with big screens 4-inch and above that have these 1 GHz chipsets produced with 45 nanometer technology, which should make for some blazing fast performance both in the interface and 3D graphics. The HTC Desire HD has 768 megabytes of RAM, which is 256 more than the one on the Samsung Galaxy S. The graphics chipset on the Galaxy S is theoretically capable of rendering 90 million triangles per second, whereas here we have half of that. But let's see how these numbers and chipsets fare in real life. Both interfaces, TouchWiz 3.0 and HTC Sense, offer home screens and widgets that you can place on them. But the graphical approach is pretty different, and the TouchWiz 3.0 is more app-centric. That's the menu with shortcuts towards your applications present on the device, whereas here it's a much more integrated experience with these big widgets with a lot of information on them and the ability to personalize and customize the interface to your liking. Personalization options are taken to the extreme here with the new HTC Sense. For example, besides the usual scenes that we have, that's the HTC name for themes, we now have skins within the same theme that we can apply to widget frames, borders, etc. And then you can customize with different wallpapers, widgets. You can download more widgets of the HTC Hub, that's new service of htcsense.com, etc. Basically amazing personalization options. There's even a separate button here on the home screen for it to mark how important it is in the new HTC Sense. It also offers fast boot times, 5 seconds. This offline navigational capabilities here, which is basically a partnership between TomTom, Route 66 and HTC, which allows you to download maps for offline viewing of more than 90 countries, and it can guide you without connecting to the internet and incurring roaming charges, etc. On your way, there's even voice-guided navigation, but you have to pay for it. The prices are pretty competitive, but still, this navigation is integrated in the interface itself, which is something very novel, very welcome feature for Android, and something that's lacking on the TouchWiz 3.0. There are also cloud-based services in the face of htcsense.com, which come with different services for locating your phone online, for locking it and wiping it remotely, etc. These two new applications, we mentioned the HTC Hub. You can download widgets, wallpapers, different skins, ringtones, which makes for an abundance of customization options online, and the collection will only be increasing, we're sure. And HTC Likes, which pre-screens applications from Android market for you that are suitable for your phone and HTC thinks will be interesting for you, as well as the usual recommended applications from Android market, the most popular. Whereas TouchWiz 3.0 here, we updated the Samsung Galaxy S to Android 2.2 Froyo, which brought in some eye candy, mainly in the icons rendering. And also we noticed that in the camera we have now self-portrait, which uses the front-facing camera that the HTC Desire HD is lacking. On both handsets you can use the so-called helicopter view of your home screens, and you can place any widget as a default home screen in the middle. For example, we're placing friend stream here. Here we're placing it in the middle, so you can swipe left and right, and you can bring it back to first place if you want. and then go back. We had absolutely no problems in browsing. Scrolling was very smooth, multi-touch works well, double tap as well, and this is an entirely flash-based website, which is a tribute to the capabilities of the Froyo browser. It even has a flash video embedded in it, as you can see. It shows up in the page in its full glory. There's a little bit more stuttering in the embedded video here on the Samsung Galaxy S. Almost unnoticeable, mainly due to the fact that the HTC Desire HD has more RAM, I guess, and there's hardware acceleration in the browser. So the browser wars here goes to the HTC Desire HD, not only because of the bigger screen, but because of the better performance as well. Typing on the 4.3-inch screen of the HTC Desire HD is a great experience, simply because the screen is so big and also because the HTC keyboard is traditionally great. A lot of place for your thumbs, there's predictive text input. Also, when you long press the letter, its accented versions appear. There are even these arrows for the cursor here. All in all, very satisfactory experience. We won't miss a physical keyboard with the HTC Desire HD. On the Samsung Galaxy S, of course, it's not a worse experience because it's a 4-inch screen. And the update to Froyo brought swipe, so if that's your thing, you are covered here. Both great keyboards. We won't be missing a physical keyboard on any of these handsets. Both camera interfaces are very touch optimized. The one on the Samsung Galaxy S has the bigger icons and the bigger choice of scene modes, whereas the one on the HTC Desire HD has an abundance of color effects you can apply to your photo or video. And also it's a great looking interface, very smooth. Although it has an 8 megapixel camera with flash in pitch dark conditions, the metering is not very good, so it returned yellow tinted photos. The one on the Samsung Galaxy S is 5 megapixel, it doesn't have a flash, and the pictures turned out a little bit blurry but with enough detail and accurate color representation. The videos that both handsets shoot is HD video with 30 frames per second, but the one on the Samsung Galaxy S looks much smoother and the image quality is better. There are not so many artifacts and as on the HTC Desire HD. So in the camera department, although that the HTC Desire HD has an 8 megapixel camera, it's not much better than the 5 megapixel one on the Samsung Galaxy S. The Samsung Galaxy S goes with the almost stock music player. It has this mock surround sound in headset mode here, 5.1 channel surround sound, which intensifies the sound. And here we have a cover flow-like interface in the HTC Desire HD. It has SRS surround sound, which again intensifies the voices and the music. But also we have Dolby Mobile, which provides deep bass sounds to your music. Both handsets we have these extra features for listening to music, which is a very welcome functionality. In this 3D game here, it's an year-old game that shows the frames per second. When we were playing, the HTC Desire HD consistently got around 58 to 60 frames per second, whereas here we had between 47.8 to 57.8 frames. And it just comes to show that the second generation Snapdragon, although theoretically it's weaker in the graphics department than the Hummingbird, actually in real life, when the game is not optimized specifically for the Hummingbird, we guess, the performance is very comparable. There is a bit of stuttering in the main menu on the HTC Desire HD here. We don't know what that's due to. You see the inertial scrolling stutters to a stop, whereas everywhere else it's very smooth in the browser, in the applications, etc. So it's basically just a question of optimization maybe. In the end, if we had to choose between the HTC Desire HD and the Samsung Galaxy S, we'll pick up the Samsung's creation, and we'll tell you why. It's not the silicon. Both phones have excellent chipsets and a theoretical advantage in the graphics department of Samsung's Hummingbird, didn't really translate into better frame rates in these 3D games that we played. They have to be optimized for that. It also not the 16 gigabytes of built-in memory that we had on our unit of the Samsung Galaxy S versus the microSD storage of the HTC Desire HD. Memory cards are cheap these days, and besides, the Desire HD compensates somewhat for the lack of inbuilt memory with having a dual LED flash for pitch darkness, which the Samsung Galaxy S lacks. And it's also not the screens, despite that we personally prefer the Super AMOLED before an LCD screen of the same resolution any day. The sheer size of the one on the HTC Desire HD is also quite appealing. It is actually the battery life and design approach that tipped the scales for us towards the Samsung Galaxy S. In practice, when you first see the HTC Desire HD, you're just wowed by the sleek aluminum chassis. The unibody design of the HTC Desire HD is very appealing, but everyday usage, when you spend time with it, you'll be looking most of the time at this black rectangle here where the screen is, but all the time you'll be noticing the considerable heft of the device and the dimensions. The fact that it's not easy to operate with one hand, you have to use both hands more often than not. Whereas the Galaxy S might be bland looking with its all plastic body, but it's incredibly thin, it's light, durable, and it's easy to handle, operate with one hand, precisely because of its plastic construction. For a handset with a 4-inch screen, it's just an amazing achievement on Samsung's part. Here we have to make a segue and say that the new HTC Sense user interface almost tipped the scales for us with its amazing personalization options, cloud-based services for remote management of your phone via htcsense.com, and offline navigational capabilities that download the maps beforehand, and you're able to use navigation without connecting to the internet. And you can even buy voice-guided navigation for competitive prices. It also has amazing boot time, 5 seconds, but it will be coming on all HTC Android handsets from now on, and it's even being ported by some inventive hackers over to the Samsung Galaxy S. So in the end we decided that it's not enough to tip the scales towards the HTC Desire HD over the Samsung Galaxy S. There was something else we had in mind. As far as telephony is concerned, we would even give slight advantage to the HTC Desire HD. It has active noise cancellation in its microphone, so people were able to hear us very well, whereas there was some static and echo when we were calling with the Samsung Galaxy S. Both loudspeakers and ear speakers are of average volume and quality. With most other things being equal or comparable, we had to pick something to choose one handset over the other. But since in browsing, in 3D games rendering, the quality of the pictures and video are comparable as well, these blazing fast chipsets don't leave us any complaints regarding the performance. Knowing that the battery life on the Samsung Galaxy S in the next morning still has a lot of juice left, whereas this one we had to put on the charger in the early evening, suffering from almost complete depletion, really tipped the scales for us towards the Samsung Galaxy S. Big screens are definitely a way to go, but only if the handsets are kept thin and light and the battery life is worth it, which is not the case with the HTC Desire HD. This was a video comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S and the HTC Desire HD from PhoneArena.